Yesterday I ran 10 miles after fasting for 12 hours, and I didn't eat for another 12. The route was filled with steep uphills and downhills, pushing my body to its limits. It took me about 2 hours. Was it difficult? Of course. But let me tell you something. It was unbelievably enjoyable. I felt like I was flying. I stepped out of my comfort zone. And the result wasn't just faster fat loss, increased endurance, or muscle activation. It was something deeper. Intense satisfaction and a powerful sense of accomplishment. I came home and took a cold shower, freezing cold, especially now that it's winter here in Australia. Then I lay down in the sun to warm my body while sipping zero-calorie electrolytes to replenish what I had lost. That joy, that peace, that feeling, it's unmatched. Nothing else in the world gives me the same reward. Honestly, fasted running is my best friend, and it can be yours too. If you're too heavy or dealing with bad joints, don't worry. Keep watching. I'll show you what you can do instead. You might not love it at first, but once you feel what it does to your body and mind, you will start to crave it. In fact, the psychological benefits of fasted running may outweigh the physical. It pulls you out of mental ruts, breaks plateaus, clears indecision. It lifts depression. It kills anxiety. It reprograms you into a survivor and makes you unstoppable. It will give you the motivation you've been missing in life. Put on your shoes, put on your headphones, play a motivational video on YouTube or your type of music, the one that fires you up, and just take off. Now let's talk about the physical side and weight loss, shall we? If you've been trying to lose weight for years without success, if you blame your age, your metabolism, or just bad luck, and no matter what you try, the belly fat and love handles never seem to go, in this video, I'll explain why fasted cardio is the ultimate weapon. It targets and destroys stubborn fat, and it works faster than anything else I've ever tried. I began my transformation at 40 years old, sitting at 30% body fat. I had tried everything and nothing worked. In fact, I kept gaining weight. But once I discovered this, the fat started melting off like butter under a blowtorch. In less than 6 months, I dropped from 30% to 10% body fat. Another 7 months later, I hit 6%. I won't dive deeply into the fasting side today because I have a full video on that. You can find it linked above and in the description. I'll add a card at the end of the video as well. But for those who haven't seen it, here's a brief overview. You fast for 24 hours a day, which is called OMAD or 1 meal a day, and during the fast you consume nothing except zero-calorie beverages, water, black coffee, and plain tea. Coke Zero or Red Bull Zero are technically allowed, but I recommend using them sparingly. They're not exactly health drinks. What I do recommend, especially if you sweat a lot, is electrolytes. You don't need to force a set amount of water. And during fasting, overhydration can actually flush out your electrolytes and minerals. Now let's get into the cardio. Nothing burns fat like fasted cardio, whether that's walking, running, or any form of cardiovascular training. I do both cardio and resistance training, but when it comes to pure fat loss, cardio reigns supreme. That said, resistance training, whether it's weights, machines, bands, or body weight, is still incredibly important. Not necessarily for immediate fat loss, but for building muscle, increasing bone density, improving overall health, and boosting your resting metabolism. The more lean muscle you carry, the more energy your body burns, even while you sleep. But having said that, go to any gym and look around. Most people aren't lean. I'd say 99.9% are not. In fact, I have rarely seen anyone in real life as lean as I am, especially over 40. Why is that? Because most people still believe that lifting weights alone will get them shredded. It won't. A defined body, especially visible abs, is built mostly outside the gym. If you're dependent on carbs, creatine, or other external sources just to be able to train, that won't help you with fat loss. In fact, it does the opposite. The goal isn't to fuel yourself like a performance athlete. You're not training for the Olympics. The goal is to force your body to burn its own fat for fuel. That said, I do approve of black coffee before a fasted morning workout, but only if you hydrate properly afterwards. Coffee is a diuretic. It depletes your water and electrolytes, which are essential during endurance activities like long-distance running. Now let's talk about the cardio strategy, because aside from food, this is the core of your fat loss. My number one recommendation is running. But first, when should you train? If your OMAD meal is at 9 p.m., which is when I typically eat, I recommend training at 6 or 7 p.m., either cardio, weights, or both. Why? 1. That's when your productivity is generally lower, So you're not sacrificing your best mental hours. 2. It's when hunger starts to hit, and nothing curbs hunger like movement. 3. Exercise increases hunger after you finish the workout and start to relax. And it also drains your energy. Both of these are exactly what you want right before your meal and sleep. You come home, eat properly, and wind down, instead of battling hunger all day and ending up overeating. Now, morning workouts have their own advantages too. If you're a morning person like me, you probably perform better in the morning. Longer runs, heavier lifts, or more sets. Plus, morning sun exposure helps with vitamin D production. If the morning is the only time you can consistently train, go for it. From what I have experienced, timing has no measurable effect on fat loss. What matters most is sustainability and consistency. Personally, I avoid morning workouts unless I have nothing else demanding scheduled for the day. Fasted morning workouts, if they're intense, leave me drained and hungry the whole day, and that can affect my productivity. My mornings are my most mentally sharp hours. I'd rather reserve them for deep work. But I'll admit, morning workouts are often more enjoyable and feel easier overall. Now, what type of cardio? Number 1, walking, the king of sustainable fat loss. Whether you consider it exercise or not, no activity contributes more to long-term fat loss. It's low impact, easy to recover from, relaxing, requires no equipment, and you can do it every day. Plus, it doesn't stress your joints, which is crucial if you're overweight and especially if you're over 40 and 50. And best of all, you can listen to audiobooks or podcasts and make it an educational experience while you burn fat. Aim for at least 3 miles or 5 kilometers daily. Brisk or power walking is best. If you miss a day, make it up the next. Occasionally go long, 10 plus miles. I also strongly recommend hiking once a month at least. It gets you into nature, adds hills which increase intensity, and breaks routine. If possible, join a local hiking group. Number 2, running, my personal favorite. Nothing gives you an endorphin rush like running. If time is constant, it burns 2 to 5 times more calories than walking, and potentially 7 to 8 times more when combined strategically with short bursts of sprinting. But here's a huge warning. If you are over 20% body fat, I strongly advise against running, at least not yet. It puts too much pressure on your joints, especially if you're in your 30s or 40s. Start with walking instead. Once you've lost some weight down to around 20% body fat or less and built a foundation, you can start light jogging mixed with walking. From there, gradually increase your distance and speed. In fact, I made the same mistake. I wanted to lose the weight as fast as possible, so I started running when I was still at 30% body fat. I did it for 2 weeks, and then I got knee pain that lasted almost 4 months. And to be honest, I'm lucky it didn't even take longer to heal. If you're over 40% body fat, even walking needs caution. Use trekking poles on long walks or hikes. Now my running routine. First, long runs, which are 10 miles or 16 kilometers, and I do them once a week. Then short runs, 3 to 4 miles or 5 to 6.5 kilometers, 3 times per week. And on other days, I just walk for 3 to 4 miles. I vary my speed throughout. After warming up, I start with walking, then transition into jogging, and then running. Whenever I'm gassed or out of breath, I slow down to recover. During each session, I include 5 to 6 sprint bursts at full speed, VO2 max intervals, followed by walking to recover. This is a form of HIIT, or high intensity interval training, the most effective method for fat burning. It spikes metabolism, increases testosterone, improves cardiovascular fitness, and even builds muscle, especially when done uphill. You'll train not only your legs, glutes, abs, and lower back, but also to a lesser extent your arms, shoulders, and upper back due to the explosive movement and arm drive. But this one is very important. Only do sprints if you're under 15% body fat and your knees are healthy. Over time, your body learns to rely on stored fat as its primary fuel source. You might not see results right away, but they will come. Week by week, month by month, your fat cells shrink and the transformation becomes visible. Your clothes start getting loose until you have no choice but to buy new ones. Now, is there better cardio than running? Yes, but it's not practical. That is long distance swimming. It burns huge calories and builds full body endurance. But access, cost, and chlorine exposure can be limiting. That's why I still consider running my favorite practical fat loss cardio. If you have bad joints, then aside from walking and using trekking poles if needed, you still need some form of higher intensity cardio. In that case, opt for cycling. It's low impact on your joints, but can still push your heart rate up and help accelerate fat loss. And if you have limited use of your legs or a disability, there are also handy cycles, bikes that are powered by your arms instead of your legs. If you can afford one, it's a great alternative that still gives you a serious cardio workout. The key is sustainability. Machines like rowers and assault bikes are great, but they're not realistic for most people to use daily for extended periods. I won't break down every machine, but if you're dealing with joint pain, my top pick to replace running is the elliptical trainer. It's low impact, easy on knees and ankles, and still works your major muscle groups with a solid calorie burn. If you enjoy sports or dancing, that can be an excellent way to get your cardio in. Especially if you join a local class or club. It adds structure, accountability, and makes the whole process more enjoyable and social. I personally enjoy kickboxing, but it requires time and a class membership with fixed hours, which doesn't always suit my schedule. I also shadowbox at home, which is great, but it's not something I can realistically do for hours at a time. Now post-workout. After I finish exercising, I cool down with 10 to 15 minutes of walking. Then I take a cold shower even in winter. It gives me mental toughness like nothing else. It separates me from 99.9% of people. Cold showers also activate brown fat, which helps burn white fat, especially around the belly and love handles. Cold showers aid in recovery, reduce inflammation, and help regulate your nervous system after intense training. And as for my meal, to maximize fat loss, boost health, and fuel my body with the best nutrition possible, I always wait for my eating window, no matter when I train. My meals are made up of whole, unprocessed foods. I follow an animal-based keto approach which eliminates empty calories and prioritizes nutrient density to support lean muscle growth, actual muscle tissue, not just glycogen and water weight. This approach also helps maximize fat loss while allowing me to eat until full satisfaction. If you want to include carbs, you still can, but you need to be mindful. First, watch your portions. Second, be extremely selective about the type of carbs you eat. Stick to the most nutrient-dense and natural sources. And understand, carbs will slow down fat loss. It is possible to make it work, but you'll need to be more calculated and precise. With keto or carnivore, you have far more freedom in what you eat and how much you eat, while still burning fat efficiently. Now, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you'll need to monitor your meals more carefully, especially protein sources, fat intake, and micronutrient coverage. I'll be making a separate video for those of you following plant-based diets. In the meantime, feel free to reach out. I genuinely believe that if you do it right, you can still get great results. The link is below if you'd like support. Now, one common question: when should you do each type of exercise? As I mentioned earlier, I prefer to train in the evening, a few hours before my meal. If I'm doing both cardio and weight training on the same day, I always prioritize cardio. I like to get the hardest part done first and out of the way. Eat that frog. You don't need to break personal records every time you lift, but skipping cardio or not taking it seriously will absolutely slow down your fat loss. It doesn't have to be every day, except for walking, but it needs to be consistent enough to become a natural part of your lifestyle. On top of that, cardio, especially running, is one of the best ways to warm up before lifting. It gets your heart rate up, activates your muscles, and helps protect you from injury during your weight training session. You don't necessarily have to go outside and run in nature. Do whatever works best for you and stick with it. If it's a treadmill at the gym, then use that. Just make sure to add some incline from time to time to simulate outdoor terrain and keep it challenging. If you don't have time to get to the gym, consider buying a treadmill. It's one of the best investments you can make for your health, and you can often find second-hand treadmills at very affordable prices. Most people buy them and never use them. Don't be one of them. First of all, find those people and buy it from them. Secondly, put it to work and let it transform your life. Lastly, the common complaints anytime I talk about this. Most people say, I get too hungry if I try fasted workouts. I don't have the energy. It's not sustainable. What about my thyroid? And so on and so forth. To that I say, brother, don't be so weak. Be strong, be resilient. We're descended from people who chased down prey after days of not eating, and they still performed at their peak. They ran, tracked, hunted, and only once they caught the animal did they rest and feast. They didn't complain. They adapted. They survived, even in cold days, under rain and snow. That's the biology you were built with. The convenience of modern life has made humans lazy and weak. I've seen people who nearly pass out if they lift 2 pounds without their pre-workouts. Once your body adjusts to daily fasting, it gets easier, much easier. But let's be honest, it will never be comfortable like life was before you decided to change. And that's the point. You're entering a space where comfort no longer matters. You're choosing growth, a strong body and a stronger mind. And I'm telling you, after 16 months of living like this, the results are undeniable. I have experienced nothing but gains, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And my health has only improved. And no, your thyroid isn't some fragile piece of toast that burns the moment you step out of your comfort zone. In fact, it's the opposite. Studies show that proper fasting followed by nutrient-dense whole foods, the kind of real natural foods humans evolved to eat, combined with strategic movements, the way our bodies were designed to function, can actually support healthier hormonal balance over time. Think about it. When you buy a specific pet or dog breed, you carefully research what type of food it should eat, what kind of environment suits it, and how much activity it needs to stay healthy. A shepherd dog, for example, will become sick if left inactive and fed nothing but processed kibble. Now ask yourself, isn't your own body more precious than that? Alright, that's it for today's video. If you have other ideas or questions, drop them in the comments. Subscribe to help grow the channel. Let's hit 10,000. If this video helped you, give it a like and share it with someone who needs it. And I'd love to hear your success stories or your commitment to start. Remember, fasted walking and running are your fast lane to fat loss. They also reverse prediabetes by increasing insulin sensitivity. They speed up autophagy already triggered by fasting, your body's built-in detox system that cleans out damaged cells and boosts regeneration. Of course, nutrition matters too, but I have covered that in detail in other videos, which you'll find linked above and in the description below. I hope this helps, but if you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know how to start or where to start, if you're stalled and need some support for now, and you want to avoid the mistakes I made early on, or if you just need a reliable compass for a fat loss or health journey, feel free to reach out for coaching. I'd love to help you get on track so you can carry the rest of the journey on your own. Let me know in the comments if you're starting tomorrow morning, or better yet, today. Nothing motivates me more than seeing you take the first step. Let's go. 2025 is the year of your fittest body and best self. See you in the next video. Peace. And run, Forrest, run.